So here's a familiar program that we've already done before that takes a string from the user and then counts the number of spaces in it. And then it's saying there are this many words in your sentence, and our theory is that there's one more word than there is number of spaces. So if I run this, please type in a sentence. I could say Josh is really cool, and it says there are 4 words in my sentence. Why? Because there are 3 spaces. Now this breaks down when I say something like Josh is really space cool space and hit enter. It says there are 9 words, and that's because there's a whole bunch of spaces here, a whole bunch of spaces here, and a couple more here, and there's not just one more word than number of spaces. So this doesn't work very well, but what we're going to learn in this lesson will fix it for us. So we're going to get rid of this one line right here, and instead of counting the number of spaces and adding 1 to it, what we're going to do is we're going to split our string into multiple items, and we're going to split it where the spaces are. So we're going to say word list equals sentence.split. And if I leave this blank, so there's nothing inside these brackets, it will automatically split wherever there are blank characters. So for example, a space. And what it's going to do is it's going to split this string into multiple parts and store those multiple parts in this list called word list. And then what we're going to do is there are so many words in your sentence. Well, what we're going to do is calculate the length of word list. And just to show you how this works, first I am going to print out word list so you can see what it makes after I get the sentence. So here we go. Please type in a sentence. Josh is the best. And I hit enter. And you can see it's made this sentence into a list where it has Josh is the and best as the elements. And it says, okay, there are 4 words in your sentence. Why? Because the length of word list has 4 items in it. And if I run it again, remember the problem before was that we could do multiple spaces and that would throw off our count. Josh is, here's a whole bunch of spaces, the coolest. And it still says there are only 4 words in our sentence because it's splitting it at the space. And when you leave it just default like that, where it's blank, then it's splitting it there. So this is a very easy way to get rid of those empty characters, those spaces. In this next example, what we're going to do is we're going to take a phone number from a user and we're going to split it into its area code and other multiple parts. And now in this case, we aren't trying to split the number at an empty character like a space. Instead, we want to split it at the dashes. So we'll be left with 3 parts. We'll have the area code, and then we'll have the first 3 numbers for the local area number, and then the last 4 numbers as well. Now before we run this, so we're going to split it at the dash, and we're going to print numbers list, and then how do we get the area code? Well, that will just be the first item in numbers list. And just to show you that that's the case, we'll go ahead and comment those out and we'll run this. And it says, please enter your phone number like that. So we'll say 807-555-5216, make something up there. And you can see that we've split this string, it's actually a string, into these 3 parts, an 807, a 555, and a 5216. So how can we print out this information to the user? Well, the area code is equal to the first element in this list. And so that will be 807. So that would be number list 0, right? Because it's the first thing in number list. And next would be number list 1, because that's the first part of the local number, and that will be placed right here. And then next after that is number list 2. So if I run this again, it says please enter your phone number, 807-555-1234. You can see the area code is 807 and my local number is 555-1234, and it's being split nicely. If we look over at the code again, number list is just a list of items that we get when we take the string called number that we got from the user and we split it every time we see a dash. For this last example, I want you to read over the code and just take a moment and try to guess as to what this code actually does. So go ahead and pause the video and think about it for a minute. So hopefully now you've got a guess, and hopefully you've also noticed that this split has two parts in it now. So let's go ahead and run it. It says, please enter your street address. I will say I'm at 1234 Smart Street. And it says, you live at 1234 on Smart Street. So how did this work? Well, what happens is we have this input statement, so we're getting a string from the user and we're storing it in the variable called address. Now, address is being split into multiple parts, and it's being split where there is a space. Now, this one is telling the program that it is allowed to split at most one times. Okay, so after it splits it once, it won't split it anymore. If there was a 2 here, it would be allowed to split address twice, but that's it. So what happens is it splits it once, and the first time that there's a space is right here. So address parts, which is the list made from splitting address, which was the string we got from the user. Address parts has two parts to it. It has the 1234, which is where address was split, because there's our first space. And then the second item inside address parts is Smart Street. Okay, so then number is address parts 0, meaning it's the first item. It would be our house number. So address parts 0 is our house number, and I store that in a variable called number. And street is address parts 1. It's the second item in the list called address parts. And that is everything else because we were only allowed to split this string once, right? Remember that one says only split it once. So our street is just the rest of it, and then we can just print you live at number on street. Okay, so there's a few ways that you can use the split function, but obviously those are not the only ways. There's a whole bunch of other ways you could use it where it would be very useful. Remember that you're just limited by your creativity.